let's do this. So if you want to interrupt me at any time, you can do it through the chat, or if you want to just unmute yourself, it should be fine. So welcome to the Hypnos Light Festival workshop. So let's start with a little bit of an overview of what are we going to see in this workshop. So first of all, the introduction, who is Hypnos, who are we? And second place, we're going to check the Vergara's Palace, what's the importance and heritage for Viña del Mar. Viña del Mar is a city in Valparaíso and in Chile specifically. I left that one out because I thought it was a little bit obvious, but it's not. We're going to go through the selection criteria for works participating in the festival. We're going to check the importance of the topic. The theme of the festival is Conversations with the Future. Why are we choosing that topic, and how it will impact the selection of the works that will be projected in the festival. We also provided some assets and reads. We're going to see how to use them. And finally, the format and dates and technical things for work submissions. And most importantly, the tips for projection mapping effects. Like, we're going to go through like which effects works better with the projection mapping technique. So I think that's based on our work, and also based in works of other festivals and other projections that we have seen along these along the last years. So first of all, we have to say that well, I present myself. My name is Cesar. We also have Esteban here in the voice chat. So we are the organizers and directors of this project, which is funded by the Ministry of Cultures, Arts and Heritage here from Chile. I don't know if you want to say hi, Esteban.
Hi Oli, hi everyone, how are you? I'm a 3D artist from Chile, and together with Cesar we started working on how to develop this light festival for all of you.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So yeah, so this is the first festival of light projections in Viña del Mar, in this city, and it will be held in January 2025. So not only national artists are participating in this instance. We also want to call international artists to participate in the 2 days of projections. That is also free of access for everyone. We are not charging anything to get into this event. So yeah, we are expecting a lot of turnout from the people here in Viña del Mar, and also why we're expecting that, because Viña is a city that in summer in particular is very visited by everyone, not only in Chile but from everyone internationally, because of the Festival of the Song, or Festival de la Canción in Viña. So you can go and check more information of our festival at hypnosfest.cl. There's a summary of everything that's about the festival. Not only you can check out the open call terms, you can also download the assets, and also we will be uploading videos and everything regarding the festival. So I think it's pretty important for everyone to check out. So here's the Palacio Vergara, or Vergara's Palace in Viña del Mar. Viña del Mar is a city in Chile, which is most known because of this international festival that we have going on in February. And in January, we're going to be doing this festival. And why is it important for Viña del Mar? Because it's basically the site of home for the founder of Viña, representing the heart of this city. It was declared an historical monument in 2008, and before 2010 or 2011, it was used as the School of Arts for the city. But after the earthquake we have in 2010, it was restored and reopened in 2020, reopening its doors to the public as a museum. And if you ever visit Viña del Mar, I recommend fully going to the museum, because it's very nice. It has a lot of work of arts of very important national artists, and also we have a lot of exhibitions that are rotating over the months. So it has become a very important part of the city for everyone to visit. There's a really nice park here, in this park, which is called Quinta Vergara, We also have La Concha Acústica, which is the place for the festival of the song that I was talking about earlier. And just for you guys to make an idea of of how many people are going to attend this light festival, around 120,000 people visit the museum each year. And January is like the most busiest month with around 20,000 visitors. So we are going to make 2 days of projections, and we are expecting a turnout of around 1,000 people like each day. So, and this is the facade, by the way, facade. That you can look at this image. It's very like nice. It has a lot of space for the public and audience to be there and look at your work of art and your light work. So I think it's a very important like event for you to showcase and have a really big impact on the audience using projection mapping techniques. We're going to only map this part of the facade of the Vergara Palace, so keep that in mind. That will also be more clear later on in the presentation when we take a look at the assets and widths for the festival. So this is the program. Take in consideration that we're going to make 2 days of this, like the same program, 2 days. At 8, around 8, we're going to open the venue. We're going to take like 15 minutes or 25 minutes for the opening ceremony. We expect like the authorities of the city making some like speeches, you know, and stuff like that. And we expect to project like an hour or an hour 10 of lightworks on the in the projection mapping festival itself. Me and Esteban, we're going to present also a projection mapping animation that's going to last for around 10 minutes, and we are expecting submissions to last like around an hour or so. So yeah, that's the program for both of the days that we are going to be doing this festival. If you're not able to attend here at the festival in person, don't worry, we're going to stream the event online through multiple Instagram accounts, and also we're going to record every work of art. We're going to upload it to YouTube and also send those recordings to everyone that participated in the festival. And yeah, so let's go to the selection criteria. So this is very important. The duration that we expect for every submission is a minimum duration of 1.5 minutes and a maximum of 6 minutes. Of course, you can go over this limit or less than this duration if you don't have time to make a longer submission. But we are recommending this duration in particular for every work of art or for every work of projection mapping piece that you would like to send. We're going to have this selection criteria. We're going to have 5 judges that will, based on this criteria, going to select all the participants of the festival, and 40% of the criteria would be of the importance would be like the quality and originality of the proposal. 30% would be the concept and relevance of to the theme that we're going to check out in the next slide, and impact of the artistic work, and 30% also to the relationship of the audiovisual work with the architecture of the facade that we are going to map. And this is a very important point, and we're going to go over it a little bit more in depth in the next slides. And the deadline for the submission is going to be January 4th, 2025. So I guess we have like 2 months from now to be like doing this work of art. Yeah, Alexander here is going to say, it's saying people will go nuts and 5,000 people will come. We expect like a turnout of 1,000 people, but probably it's gonna be more, right? So that's awesome. So this is the topic. This is related to the second selection criteria, which is the concept and relevance to the theme. So why we did this open call with this theme, Conversations with the Future. So basically we believe that the imagination of a future in the culture has experienced stagnation. So going a little bit more in depth with this point, we think that, like, for example, if you take a look at 100 years ago and you ask people to imagine what would like the 2000 look like, everyone would draw pictures with, you know, flying cars, robots making every homework and whatever, and like humans just going through like dedicated to a life of pleasures and so on. But there was a very even if that was wrong, right? There was a very vivid imagination about the future, and everyone was making bets about it, right? So right now, there's a saying that I do agree with, which says like it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of the actual system or the action, like the actual current way of doing things, right? And this is especially like a very important topic, because if we don't have an imagination of the future, how are we going to construct that idea, right? It's not possible that the idea of the future is only like being a monopoly of the people at Silicon Valley and so on. So through this festival, we invite everyone to submit works that encourage the audience to imagine and dream of a future that we want to inhabit. So there are some suggested topics for discussion. For example, climate change. How are we going to solve this relationship between humans and nature? What's the importance of technology and artificial intelligence in this future? Mental health is a super important topic right now. How are we going to like deal with it? How we would like to deal with it in the future? Sustainable economy, others. I mean, this is just like a suggestion about topics that you can like use for your submissions, but it's not really mandatory. Everyone that has a projection of the future that would like to share with the audience, that's are super welcome, and that's going to be like evaluated here. Like, but the topic that the submission has to be related somehow with this theme. Let's go through the assets and grids that we provided. So first, we provided 16 masks that highlight the important part of the architectures of the facade. So here I'm going to check out an example of that. So let me go through the masks here. Basically, if you download the masks, the project, you can see that you have like all of these masks, right? But what does this mean? So we're going to check out first the color mask, which is this one, and I'm going to show you how it will look projected in the Vergara's Palace. So basically, this image over here, when it's projected on the facade, it's going to look like this, right? So every part that's colored differently, for example, this one over here corresponds to a very important detail in the architecture of the facade. And yeah, so that's we provided this mask and these images for you to like serve that this could serve for you like as a guide, right? So for example, this cornice will represent this part of here, and so on. These are the windows, and yeah, you can probably see. Can you say the name for the tool of videos in frame? This one is After Effects. So we're going to check out like an example of how to use these masks, because this is just one of them. This is like this is the full color grid, but these are the columns separated, the cornices, details of the facade, right? The details of the windows itself, and also the decorations of the windows, and so on. So, for example, we do make a selection. I mean, it depends on the number of like submissions that we have for the project, right? But if we receive like 20 or 30 submissions, each one like 5 minutes long, we're probably going to do a selection on that. And after that, we're going to select the prices for the best works. Yeah, no worries. So, for example, here we have like an example for example, this is the second time that I did it. Like in Spanish, I did the same. But if you can take a look here, this is the normal mask for one of the elements of the architecture of the palace. But if we use, for example, stencil Luma, and below that layer we add a video, or in this case we can add a solid, we're going to be making an animation or a little animation about that specific part of the architecture, right? And if you go over all of the important details that you would like to basically use for your submissions, you can do something like this in the end, where you have, like, I don't know, going through the cornices, where you're going to add like a different color, you're going to use this part of details of the architecture, facade, and so on. But it's up to you, right? But this is just a simple example of how to use the masks. The most important part is that every mask should conform to these limits. It's like the white mask total, right? So every content, or every audiovisual content for the submission must fit in this part. That's the first step, and we're going to select like every submission that's going to use like the details, right, of the facade. So that's like the 2D part, right? And the composition part is going to be super important, like to use these masks. But if you go through the second part of the assets, we also have like 3D grid. So the 3D grid is a 3D object separated by the most important architectural details of the Palacio Vergara, and it has one orthographic camera. And why do we use this orthographic camera? Is because if you want to conform with the architecture of the palace, we need to use this camera that's very special and particular instead of using the perspective camera. Because if you see here, you're going to check out that if we add an object, for example, cube, here's the orthographic camera. I don't know if you can see it, but if you use a cube here and you try to like make it closer to the camera, you're going to see that the size of the cube is not changing at all. And why is that important? Because the orthographic camera avoids having to deal with perspective. And because of that, we can use this 3D grid specifically for the grid of mapping, right? So that's, if you want to conform like the works that you're doing on the 3D program specifically to the architecture, this is the perspective that this is the camera that you would like to use, an orthographic one. But what if you want to like actually change the scale or like the size of an object here in the 3D camera? Well, in the orthographic camera, you can use scaling. So we're going to check that out in an effect a little bit later, but this is important to remember, because if you want to make, for example, things that will zoom in or zoom out of the audience and create that effect, you're going to use scaling to create that. But you can use a combination of both techniques, but they can be used in composition. So for example, if you are a 3D artist that would like to, for example, have a part that's going to only, you're going to highlight parts of the architecture specifically, then you should use orthographic. But if you want to do something with more perspective that's not really like one-to-one to the architecture, then you can use perspective with no problem, but then you can like mix them in the composition part, right, of the process. We're going to check some examples here. For example, teams. We're going to check out some tips for creating effects in mapping. So this one, tips for popping out or overlay. So there's a very like basic effect where you pop out some objects of the architecture. Here's like the example. I'm going to check out the video. We made a test like session in September where we tested out these effects, and I have a video here about it. Let me show it to you. So yeah, this is actually being projected on the, like, this is not a 3D render, right? This is the projection itself. This is a test that we did in September. But if you can check it out, it's basically, it's going to take a second to load because it's like 4K, but still. So if you check out here, you can see that the eye, it seems like it's popping out of the architecture itself, right? And the light also is changing. So that's the best ways to describe the advantages of using a 3D render or a 3D model, is that you can use all the details to project light and to make things pop out of your architecture, even using an orthographic camera. So how did we do? How did we actually achieve this effect? If we go to, let me show you this one over here. So yeah, this is the same scene. This is in perspective, but this is not actually going to be rendered. But if you take a look at the eye is actually going through the architecture, but it's also changing its scale. So that's giving the effect here in the orthographic camera that it's actually going through the architecture and also getting closer and closer to the camera. Another important part of this effect is that you're actually projecting a shadow on the architecture itself, and that's one of the advantages of using the actual 3D model, right? Because the shadow itself is going to conform with the architecture of the projection. So that's, I think, one of the important things about using projection mapping is that, well, you can argue that you can use this specific, for example, mask and project a video. You can project a video that is not related at all with the architecture, but the projection mapping part is important, or the technique is well achieved when the content, it's actually having a conversation or sort of conversation, a visual conversation with the architecture of the building that you are actually projecting on. And that's why I think 3D mapping is like the best way to do it, right? But this is how you achieve this effect. First of all, you scale the eye to give the impression that it's getting closer to the camera, and also the light, it's going to be super important. And if you change the light source, in this case, I don't know where's the light source here, but it doesn't matter. Like the light source is changing direction, and it's creating this effect where you create the illusion that basically there's a light source here, but it's not. It's just like a projection and illusion, right? And you can see that very well here in this video if it plays. Yeah. So here's like the illusion of the element popping out, and also a little bit of light source shenanigans, right? It's like working around and so on. Cool. Standout important architectural details. So this is also a very nice effect that you can achieve by using the grids that we provided. This one is over here. Yeah. Let me show you the video of the test that we did. Yeah, this is not it. Sorry about this, but yeah, I think this one is. Yeah, so basically in this 3D scene, what we did was select the most important architectural details and add a material to them as being a light source, a very bright light source. And if you see here, it's almost as if like the building was made of like neon, right? How did we achieve this? Well, in the same 3D grid that we provided, if you go through this one over here, this is quite simple to achieve. It's very nice. Like basically what I did was select these details and add this material, this bright material to it, and then afterwards we render it, and we're going to achieve like an effect like this. This is pretty cool, in my opinion. You can play with depth perception. There's another video about it. This one, if I'm not mistaken. But that's what I meant when you can like combine both of the techniques, right? you can have like this one over here. You can have like an orthographic camera when you want to stand out or like highlight architectural details, and you need that the image fits one-to-one with the projection. Or you can use like material render animation render in perspective camera to create this effect of depth, right? Because when you have a perspective camera, you have the advantages of using depth as an effect. So you can combine both of them, but the most important part, again, is that it needs to conform to the masks that we provided, right? Yeah, making possible architecture. This is also pretty nice. I think it's in this one over here that we achieve this effect. But what my point here is that projection mapping and basically you are projecting virtual content into an actual physical thing, right? So you can do things like changing the perspective or the way the audience is perceiving the architecture of the palace, right, or of the building. So, for example, here we have a rotation where we actually rotate the building, and it makes the impression that it's making this rotation. And by the way, if you take a look at it like in real time, it's actually like the effect is achieved a little bit better. But here, this is a very simple effect also on how to achieve it. So basically, we have this building here. And what I did was just like make it rotate in an axis, but the ending position of the grid is the same as the starting one, right? So that creates the illusion that it's actually rotating over here. So yeah, what I want to say with this part of the presentation is that remember that what you are doing here is virtual, but it's going to be projected on something physical. So take that advantage and make something impossible happen, right? And be perceived. And I think that's very cool part of the projection mapping technique. Any kind of work is accepted, yes. 2D and 3D. But basically, the format at the end should be like a video conforming with the masks, and yeah, in the 1920, I don't know, the HD format, right? I'm not good at numbers with English. Another example of like impossible architecture, I'm going to leave this here in the presentation, but we can check it out. Like this is very simple projection mapping. Like the physical part is just like 3 cubes, and this whole video is a bunch of library of effects that you can use in your presentations, just like making the audience believe that the actual thing is moving, is changing. That's quite cool. And yeah, you can see here that the very first like effect is basically outlining the architecture. That's very common in projection mapping, making the effect that is actually appearing, or changing on wobbling wobbling out the actual architecture. I think you can do loads of things with this, and that's why I have it here. Use it as a library of possible things that you can do also in your submissions. We have here something pretty cool, which is popping out the architecture, like elements popping out of the architecture. And what sells this effect here is that it has a little bit of shadow between the plane of the building and the element that you want to superimpose into that building, right? And that sells the effect, the shadows over here. And also using the same texture or a similar texture as the building itself, which is pretty cool. I think that this one was one of the works that that was stand out in Tokyo Lights. This was just like 2023. It's obviously using AI. We don't have restrictions for AI. We only have restrictions for copyrighted content, so you can use that as well. Yeah, it would be super cool to see something similar to that. Also, for example, in 2D, something that really works is revealing and occluding parts of the architecture. You can see that you can use this mask or the white, like a light, only revealing part of the architecture that we mapped, right? And yeah, this is only 2D. I think it's not using 3D. That's my no. I think it's using some of the of 3D. I guess in the in the door, but still, this is easily achievable in 2D, and it looks pretty cool, right? Because it's like highlighting one part of the architecture, but it's also like suggesting some other parts of the structure, right? So yeah, super cool effect, and I think it's cool. It's very cool. So another important tip that we would like to say about the submissions that you send is take in mind the values and like the colors that you use in your submissions. Here's an example for a festival that we participated in 2017. If you can check out like this part over here, we were trying to like have this effect of these vines covering the facade of this other building that we have in Santiago, which is the Museo Bellas Artes. And yeah, you can take a look here that it doesn't look that stunning in real life. And why is that? Is because you have to think that the projector is light, right? It's projecting light. And it's not the screen in the cinema where the conditions are perfect and there is no lights around and everything, or it's no TV screen. And even TV screens like struggle with black, right? But here, because of the colors were a little bit opaque and the saturation was not all the way up and the values were not chosen properly, if you see here in the presentation itself, it doesn't look that good, right? But then again, this white porch that comes in, right? It really pops out, and everyone started like recording the presentation. Yeah, so take that into consideration as well. Use very bright values, very high saturation, high contrast, because it's going to be like the best. Like for example, this part is super bright and it looks awesome. The audience is like thrilled with it, and you can measure it basically with all the like mobile phones pointed at the projection. So that's super important to have in mind. And yeah, this is also like a live. This is the actual render that we did, and there was this part that we used. Like we basically played with the light source. We added these elements here. For example, this one over here and this one over here, and we added a light source, right? And when you add a light source in the 3D render, you can see that it's going to have an effect on the shadows, right? And that is super cool because here that actual element is not here, but with the shadows you can sell the effect that there's something on the facade, right? And on the building. And that's, I think it's a super cool effect that you can achieve, and it's also related to this part over here where you are selling the effect that there's something superimposed right on the facade, and using only a little bit of shadows, which I think is super cool. And yeah, it's one of the favorites of the audience, right? If you use this, it's gonna be cool. And yeah, I think that's all of it. Yes, that's also in the in here in the, if you go through the like the technical details of the open call, you can see that the music composition needs to be not exclusively original, but needs to be copyright free, right? If you buy a song and use it, that's yeah. If you have the rights to reproduce it and everything, that's okay. and if you have like sound effects and everything that you have the rights to reproduce that, that's okay, right? But you can use like Despacito and stuff like that. You have to use something that's either original or that you have the rights to reproduce or play, right, in your submission. There's also a thing that I didn't mention in the presentation, is that there are like prizes for we'll be selecting the best, like the top 3 works will be selected, and we'll have like approximately like $380 for the first place, $160 for the second place, and third place would be like $111. We know it's not that much to incentivize like everyone participating, but take in consideration that this is the first edition of the festival, and we aim for doing this like every year in Viña, and as we grow, we would like to like invite the sponsors and everything. So because this is the first edition, those are the prices, but still I think it's kind of an incentive and motivation to participate in the festival. But for me, like the most important part is like showing your work in a really cool format, you know, in a very special part of the city. I think that's very special as well. That's why we are starting making the festival, right? We wanted to show something, and also we wanted to invite others to take part of this event. So yeah, I think that's the whole presentation. I don't know if you have any more questions about it. We would be happily answering them. I don't know if you have any doubts of any part of the presentation. But yeah, give a gaviota to the winner. We'll think about it. Yeah, thank you, Julie. And thank you everyone for being here. It's awesome to see that there's interest to participate in the festival. And yeah, thank you so much.